Okay, I will call the meeting to order here. It is 4:25 Mountain Time. I want to welcome the listening in audience from our membership. This is an audio podcast of the American Numismatic Association Board of Governors open session meeting of April 14th, 2015. Welcome, enjoy. Okay, first up on our agenda here, which most of you should have, even those viewing it, they could have gotten it online. We have a housekeeping issue first, which deals with our approval of the board minutes. So anytime anybody on the board wishes to chime in, we'll make this as fast as possible. A motion by, second by, to approve the Portland National Money Show open session board meeting minutes of March 7th, 2015. Is there a maker?
I'll move them, Scott.
Governor Rottinghouse, a second by?
Lyon.
Governor Lyon. Okay, any further discussion from the board? You've all read them. There will be no corrections. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstention? Absences 2. Motion is carried. Audit Committee report and budget guidelines. Governor Lyon, you have the floor, or the share, or whatever, the airwaves.
So, and I hope I apologize if this didn't get sent out. Did everybody receive a copy of the 990 form that goes to the IRS over the last week or so?
Yes.
Yes, you should.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So the IRS form 990 is basically is the equivalent of a tax return for nonprofits. The 990 form is prepared by our auditor and basically provides information on our activities to the IRS. And from there, I'll open it to any questions that people may have. It was sent out to both the Audit and Finance Committees, and there were minimal questions that came back from it.
Greg, who sent that out? I don't think I've seen it.
I don't know. Let me see if I can find my copy of it. I
heard those yeses in the background, but did people actually receive it?
I know Jeff would have received it through the audit committee, I believe, or the finance committee. It's possible that it did not get sent out, and that's why I was just thinking I probably should have followed up on that before.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. Tom Mulvaney.
I can forward it out to everybody, but the more important, the reason that I couldn't have sent it out was the version that I received was password protected.
Okay.
I'd recommend, Walt, that we table this. The good news is that the form has been put together. It's done earlier than we usually get it put together, from what I understand. The audit and finance committees did not have any major issues, and as soon as I can get a non-password protected copy, I'll send it out to the board for their review.
Okay, we will table motion 2A then until that, and we will, after we get it approved, it will also be available on our website for our membership to see. Motion B, Governor Lyon.
So the next motion that I'm making is something that we've talked about previously. The ANA is in a very fortunate position where we have significant investments. We have money that is in mutual funds. We have a significant stake in Benny Keith, which is a privately held corporation that deals with food and beverage distribution. And basically, we have assets in the neighborhood of $23 million outside of our building, outside of our numismatic collection, and the like. One of the things that as a nonprofit we have to kind of look at is that we are not necessarily like a business where every year every dollar that comes in has to equal every dollar that goes out. My personal belief is that if we continue to do what other boards have done, which is to let our investments continue to grow without utilizing any of them to provide program activities, we're actually doing a disservice and possibly violating our educational mandate. The proposal that I would like to make is that in drafting a fiscal year budget, that the anticipated expenses not exceed the anticipated revenues plus 3% of what I call association investment principal. If you look at our audited financial statements, I define association investment principal as our total current assets, so that is all of the money we have in the bank or in liquid investments, minus our total liabilities, so basically any money that we owe, and also subtracting assets temporarily restricted for program activities. That would include money that is set aside for YN activities, for the Bob Leslie Educational Fund, and things of that nature. And that I would also say that an additional 1% of association investment principal may be used for what I call unanticipated non-capital expenditures during the fiscal year. To give you an idea of kind of how this fits into our investments that are in the stock market, like the majority of ours are, have typically returned 7% per year over the long haul. What we're basically saying here is that we're willing to spend 3% of our investments every year. Some years we may lose a little bit of money in the market. Other years we may gain a lot more. But on the whole, this should be a very balanced way to increase our activities while maintaining strong financial discipline. For fiscal 20 year 16, the values that we'd use would be off of the 2014 audited financial statements. Our current assets are just over $23 million. Our current liabilities are just over $3 million, with assets temporarily restricted for program activities about $1.5 million. That leaves about $18.5 million of what I define association investment principal, of which 3% is just over $550,000 that we would allow to be used in budgeting for the upcoming year. Obviously, if we have unanticipated capital expenditures, if the roof starts making a hole, if our telephone system needs a repair, the board can still vote to do that, but this would be basically using a portion of our investment for operating expenses on an ongoing basis. And if we decided that we didn't want to spend it, the board could tell the executive director in setting the budget that we don't like that idea, but this would be a starting point by which the budget could be drafted.
Okay. Board member questions. I want to start with Vice President Garrett.
Greg, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with this. I'm not sure about the additional 1% angle thing. I'd have to ponder that for a second. But basically what this does is, in my opinion, you can tell me I'm right or wrong, is this helps everyone to define what a balanced budget is for the A&A. And a balanced budget would be including using some of our resources, and anything in excess of that would be considered not a balanced budget. And is that correct? Was probably the right way of phrasing that, probably more to the bottom line?
That would be a good way of putting it. Obviously, this is not saying that the board could not approve an unbalanced budget, but yes, it's basically saying that the budget that is presented to the board should basically be the expenses should be no more than revenue plus 3% of what I've defined as association investment principal.
Right. So going forward, the organization wants to become, sustainable spending with a balanced budget, but the balanced budget that is defined as using 3% of our anticipated revenues of our investment principal. So it really doesn't change any spending or non-spending of what we've done. I think it helps add clarity to what we want to try to accomplish as our financial goals. And I'm very supportive. I've been trying to get this accomplished for a long time, because I think that there is responsible spending, and the ANA's had a lot of unresponsible spending, and we need a clear definition of what the two different are.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Garrett. Any other board members? Because I didn't want to.
Yeah, Walter, this is Scott. I was just going to say I support this as well. I think that Greg's 3% figure is actually quite conservative. I know other organizations do 4% to 5%. And I think that it's very reasonable for us to do 3%. And given that the 3% figure is conservative, I think Greg's proposal of 1% for unforeseen things, kind of as a budgetary guideline, is reasonable. So I support this, and I think it's a great idea for reasons already stated by others.
Other board members' comments?
Now, can I also just interject with one other comment, Walt?
Yes,
if you look at our financial statements, there is another item on that is on the statement. Give me a second here to pull it up. I'll have it up in about 5 seconds here. There's another item that is, well, wait, I can't find it real fast. Basically, there's another item on our financial statements that is the stock that we are due from the Benny Keith's company in the future. It's currently estimated at about $14 million. In the future, when we actually get it, it will be about $25 million. It's discounted based on the life expectancy of the people who the stock is currently held in trust for. So basically what this will do is that when that stock actually comes to us, it will give us another $750,000 to $1 million to spend on a yearly basis. So just wanted to throw that out as well.
Thank you, Governor Lyon. Anyone else have any questions or concerns here? Okay, well, not hearing any. I do have a motion here. I have a motion by Governor Lyon. Would need a second to approve the following budgeting guidelines beginning with the fiscal year 2016. And these were just outlined, and there's a lot of them here for those of you listening in, but you'll be able to see this on your agenda as well as the board's agenda. So I'm not going to read all of that.
Garrett.
Okay, I have a second by Vice President Garrett.
Who do I have as first? Greg Lyon?
You have Governor Lyon. That's Autumn. His
Lyon. Okay.
Governor Lyon. I'm sorry. You didn't.
Lyon.
Mine are filled in differently. I'm sorry. My error.
Okay.
So we have a second by any further discussion. Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Governors Atkins and Ross absent. Motion is carried. Okay, headquarters, is Carrie ready yet?
I'm here.
Okay, I thought I was going to wait. Let me just preface for the audience listening in. We did have a short executive session before this session, and we covered just a couple of issues. We covered a contract for a new telephone system to the ANA, which should benefit everyone in the long run. We looked at a bad debt issue, and we also covered some information about the proposed sites for the national money shows in 2018 and 19. So that's just a quick recap of our brief executive session. Next up on your agenda, item number 3, life membership eligibility. This issue was tabled in Portland with some changes suggested by the board. And the board, I don't know if the membership online has it too, but those changes are noted on your agenda in red. And I'm going to let our membership director, Carrie Hardy, speak to the issue as a whole. Carrie?
All right, the proposed change was to remove the 3-year waiting period for eligibility of a regular member for life membership. We went through and made some changes throughout the bylaws to make sure it was corrected in every instance, such as YNs and associate members. And we in Portland all agreed upon, originally it was just reducing it to 2 years, but after discussion from the members and the board, we all came to the conclusion that the waiting period is not should not be required, and it's not to the best advantage of our members.
Okay, any questions from the board for Mr. Hardy?
I'd just like to say thank you for taking the time to make sure we did a thorough review of the bylaws so that we didn't end up creating a bigger mess than we were trying to get ourselves out of.
So noted.
Thank you. Any others? And for the membership that's listening in, the reason we're doing this is because this affects you as a member, so it has to be brought to your attention in a board session in an open session where you can hear it. And no further questions on the board. I will entertain a motion and a second to accept the proposed modifications to Article 1, Members, Eligibility, Rights, and Privileges, Section 3, Life Members, as proposed, and to modify all other occurrences pertaining to life membership eligibility in the ANA bylaws and Code of Ethics. This is also to include Section 4C, Young Numismatists members, and Section 5D, Associate members.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Jeff.
Okay. Motion by Governor Swindling. Second by?
Mulvaney.
Governor Mulvaney. Okay. Any additional discussion from board? Okay, I will call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. 2 absent, Governor Atkins and Governor Ross. Okay, item number 4. Carrie, you're not going anywhere yet. This deals with associate membership.
Okay.
Article 1, associate members. We asked you to make some changes in this.
Right. So it was basically with the D provision will more housekeeping. D provision will no longer exist if the life member motion passes, which it has. So it's just removing Section D from Article 1, Section D.
Section D, and that reads: membership as an associate member shall be considered in computing the 3-year membership requirement for life membership. That would be stricken.
And removing
here.
son, daughter from the eligibility
Right.
of associate membership. That was the most important part of it.
Yeah, I got to get down to the next page. I'm scrolling down. Trying to scroll down.
On without you. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, please move on. You will, You will in 120 some days. So we're gonna. So anyway, there's also the section there as well for son and daughter being removed. Okay.
I'll make the motion too, Walt.
Okay, I have a motion by Governor Swindling. Is there a second? Second?
I'll second.
Governor Sperber, and that's a motion by Governor Swindling, second by Governor Sperber to remove the eligibility for sons and daughters from the associate, which we now call silver membership, as allowed in Article 1, Members, Eligibility, Rights and Privileges, Section 5A of the ANA bylaws, and to incorporate this change into the ANA bylaws and Code of Ethics. That's the motion we're voting upon. Any further discussion from the board?
Just making a point that
Sure.
the reason that son and daughter are stricken is not because we don't want junior members. It's because it's the same price as a full junior membership with full rights and privileges.
Thank you for the clarification, Governor Swindling. That is correct. Any other board thoughts or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. 2 absent, Atkins and Ross. The last item on the agenda is something that was brought to my attention by the Advisory Council. I'm going to open this up for discussion too. But recently the Advisory Council would like us to consider as a board adding an Advisory Council member to attend all board meetings as an ex officio non-voting member. Now, there was a motion brought forth that was approved in 2006 that deals with this a little bit, but it specifies in that particular motion that it be the immediate past president. That's not always been possible, and I think this is some of the concern that the Advisory Council has had. And as we look at the discussions, they would like to be involved, they being the Advisory Council, in both the executive and open session. And I have my concerns about the executive session part. But anyway, Gary Lewis, if the motion does pass, would be the one that I would designate as president to serve in this capacity. He has a passion for keeping our advisory council involved. So with that being said, I will open it up to discussion. As I said, I have concern about the executive session portion.
Would Walt, this is Greg, would this be in addition to the past president?
Well, it would take it would be the same thing, because the problem is some past presidents go on, are elected on the board again. So it says immediate past president, but that doesn't work all the time.
So, but is the immediate past president mentioned specifically in the bylaws?
No.
Yes,
right.
it is.
Well, it does mention it, but not in this capacity of using them as the advisory council. And what the advisory council wanted them to designate, so any president could designate one special individual, whether it be Gary Lewis or myself or Governor Lyon, to act in this capacity for.
But if the immediate past president is included as in the bylaws, this would be in addition to that.
That's correct.
It could be, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Greg, I think is like if Walt gets on the board next time, we won't have that position. There won't be anybody filling that position.
But if the membership decides they don't want Walt on the board, it could be Walt and Gary, for example.
Well,
That's
see,
how this is written.
No. The term was back in 2006. They put down the immediate past president. At that time, that wasn't in the bylaws. That's the problem. Bylaws were changed in 2011, and where that past president now is designated as. But that designated president could be a member of the Board of Governors again if he or she decided to run. And so it leaves
the point is, do we want like Greg's saying? So we want to. Let's say you weren't running Walt for the board. Would we want to have a past president and an advisory council? Would there be two advisors in each meeting?
No, it would be one or the other. One would function only as the advisory council liaison, so like a liaison. And this was I tried to figure this out with.
But that's completely unclear because the past president thing's in the bylaws already. So this reads as an additional person as I read it.
If the president approves it.
Yeah, again, it's up to each president. The problem is the concern that the advisory council as a whole has. They're not getting representation. They're not getting information. And according to what I was told, the stumbling block is the fact that the term immediate past president is not.
Right.
Couldn't the president just do this anyway without any board action?
Well, this is also.
It could. Yeah, it could. I'm just bringing it up because they asked me to bring it up for discussion. I had a long talk with several of the members recently. So go ahead. That's why I'm asking you folks. I'm not.
Can I bring up
I have no problem as a fallback is to have this happen. Like if you're like next year, I would have no problem with them appointing someone to be in my opinion, there should only be one extra person at the board meetings, and it would either be an advisory council person who they've designated to be there, which could be anybody.
Right.
If the past president is elected to run for the board again and gets elected, but if you did not, then I think the advisory board has a responsibility to work with the past president to be the representative. And it's like I think that they've had a breakdown. It's like I don't think. I guess an issue with in the past where the past president has not really represented properly the advisory board. To me, that seems to be the breakdown that's causing the issue.
Hey, Walt, I'd like to make a point that I don't think this motion is necessary. I'm going to read Article 4, Section 7 of the bylaws. It says, the immediate past president, not otherwise an elected governor, shall serve as an ex officio non-voting member of the Board of Governors. In the event the immediate past president cannot or declines to so serve, the president and or the board may request that the next previous past president, the chair of the advisory council, or such other person as is approved by the board to attend board meetings in the same capacity.
And so we've got it covered then.
Yeah, well, that again, I'm just bringing their concern here. IQ, I tried to figure out what Mr. Lewis was trying to make a point of, and I figure we can discuss it here.
There's a communication problem more than anything.
Well,
to me,
we know that we're trying to
right.
we're trying to resolve that, and I couldn't agree with you more. Again, Greg, thank you for mentioning that too. I cited that thing, but they said, well, it's too cumbersome. They wanted a designated person, and I'm just following through as the president. I bring up items to the board that I am asked to bring up. So this here would be, if there's no problem with it, and I assume that Vice President Garrett will be the heir to the presidency, understands this. I'm sure that he can work with the advisory council. Again, it's been communication. It's hard
at this point, and what I would have no problem with is, when I become president, I would have no problem with them. If you're assuming you get elected to the board, I would have no problem with them having a representative on the, as per our bylaws right now say, they can have a representative at the board meetings.
Well, see, but I could not serve in a dual role. If I'm elected for the board,
right,
for example,
I know, right.
I could not serve. Okay,
so
and again, I wasn't sure what he was trying to say. I did my best to try to figure it out with being yelled at by 4 or 5 of these.
Right.
Wise,
the only thing I'm not totally clear on is that, so, and Holly can maybe answer is, so let's say we decided that Gary Lewis can come to our board meetings starting in August. What is the responsibility of a non-elected official being at the meetings, at board meetings, to as far as confidentiality and things like that?
Well, see, that's why I didn't want it to extend to executive session. That was my concern, and Holly?
I want to provide limited legal analysis in an open session, but to the extent we have someone who is there pursuant to the bylaws, then arguably any confidential information they receive is governed by the bylaws and they can't share it. Because acting out of an abundance of caution, I would prefer that we have any ex officio or anyone appointed to serve in this capacity sign some kind of non-disclosure agreement. As you know, we sometimes discuss contract negotiations as well as litigation in executive session, and it's important that we not allow the attorney-client privilege to be breached.
Okay, that sounds clear. Well, when we cross that bridge, it sounds like we will be crossing that bridge with if the election goes with Walt being on the board, then we will be crossing this bridge fairly soon. So, and I think one of the things as far as communication, I'd like to make sure that there's a proper response to this request here to have this on the agenda today. And I just don't want them to think that it's been discarded out of hand. I'd like to make sure there's a well thought out response so that they understand what's going on. Does that make sense?
Well, and remember, this is also an audio cast, so we'll have it there. We'll have the record as well for them to hear and listen. And I will talk to Gary Lewis and the council afterwards. And
that's the main thing. I just want to make sure we communicate the desire. We really, because I really plan on having a lot of input from those kind of people. I want to make sure there's no I don't want there to be ill feeling just because of miscommunication.
Yeah, and then that's part of the problem. I guess I was over a little zealous here, but I figured, okay, I'll bring it up because it's an open session. We can discuss it. And that's what we're doing. We're not going to proceed with any of the motions. I'm not going to go that far, but it's just something that I guess, like you said, Jeff, or Gary, it's on your radar. So that's not a problem. Okay, that would conclude our open session. There's not much here for the membership to do. I will remind you that our next regular open session for the ANA Board of Governors is scheduled for June 9th. And we will certainly keep you informed and get out agendas online for those that want to participate. I will say our YN intern had tended to be here to participate, which was Sam Ernst, and he said he had a job, and they wouldn't let him off. So we're going to have to work with some leverage there as an ANA Board of Governors to make sure that Sam he will be attending our June 9th one, so he will be in Chicago. That's already been set up. With that concludes our business here. I want to thank the board for its openness and participation in the discussions, and thank you to the membership for viewing. We will adjourn this meeting, and it's 4:55 Mountain Time.